In this example, I'm going to be showing two kinds of loops in Java. I'm going to show you the while loop, and I'm also going to show you the do while loop. They're both very, very similar, very easy style of loops that are found in Java. And let's get started. I'll give you the basics of these things. So we're going to create a new project, and let's call it while loop example. Click finish. And I'm just going to get rid of these comments here by the default comments. Oops. I'm sure I could change my settings and get rid of those by default, but whatever. Okay, so first thing to do, I'm just going to give a little message to the user, just to make it a little more user-friendly. Oops. And I'm going to say display the numbers from 1 to 10, like that. So the first one, what we're going to do is we're going to do the while loop first to show you how that works. So now for the while loop to work, I need a counter variable. I need some way of counting how many times the loop has run. So I'm going to create a variable called int I. So it's going to be, the variable is called I, it's going to be integer, and I'm going to start it off at 1. So I'm going to set it equal to 1. And what I'm going to do in my loop is I'm going to write while I is less than equal to 10, while I is less than equal to 10, curly bracket, enter. Keep doing the code between these two brackets. So keep going while the I is less than equal to 10. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to print out the I, and then I'm going to make the I go up by 1. So what I could write, I equals I plus 1. So what's going to happen in my loop is I'm going to create this integer called I set equal to 1. I'm going to keep looping while the I is less than or equal to 10. Java knows this is a loop by this command. So keep looping while the I is less than or equal to 10. And it's going to keep looping everything between these yellow curly brackets right here. So the first thing it's going to do is it's going to print out the variable I, which is currently at 1. Then it's going to make it go up by 1, so now it's 2. Comes back around, is it still less than 10? Sure it is. Prints out 2, and it becomes a 3. Keep looping back and forth. Let's run it and make sure this actually works. Awesome, so we got the numbers 1 to 10. Now this line right here, you would almost never see that in coding. The command to make a variable like I increment by 1, so go up by 1, is so common that coders actually have a short form for this. And the most common way of writing this line is I++. That will do the exact same thing. It's going to make the I value go up by 1. My guess as to why they created this thing is, programmers are just, oftentimes very lazy people. They want to do the shortest possible to code. So they invented this sort of shortcut years and years ago. And this is like a universal thing almost. So I++ makes whatever the variable go, so in this case it's called I, right? It makes your I value go up by 1. Let's run it again and show you it still works. Awesome. Okay, so let's do the same thing. I'm just going to do a little separation thing here, just a bunch of lines. I'm going to do the same thing, but this time using a do while loop. They're very, very, very similar. Very similar. I'm actually going to reuse my I, so I'm just going to set the I equal to 1 again. This time I did not put int in front. Watch what happens if I do that. It doesn't like it. It says the variable I is already defined. It means it's already created right here. So I don't need to recreate it. All I need to do is reset its value to 1. So I'm going to reset it to 1. And this time I'll show you what the loop looks like and I'll explain it. So I'm going to write do. I'm going to do system out println I, and then I++, and down here I'm going to write while I is less than or equal to 10. So it's very, very, very similar. The only real difference is the fact that the while is occurring at the end. It's occurring at the end instead of at the beginning. The problem is, if you didn't have the command do, you just had a curly bracket, how would Java know that this is the start of a loop? It doesn't really. So you need this command called do, and that's the command that Java knows, hey, I'm starting a do while loop here. I'm going to treat it the exact same way, but the only difference is I'm going to put the check at the end. So this loop up here, the first one, this is called a pre-check loop. So it does all the checking at the beginning of the loop, whereas this one is a post-check loop. It does all the check at the end of the loop. So let's run it and make sure both of them work exactly the way we want. So we got 1 to 10, and I got 1 to 10. So these are identical kinds of loops. In my experience, the while loop, the one on top here, is much more common than the one on the bottom. Pretty much every loop you can imagine can be written as a while loop or a for loop. That was a previous video I did. The do while loop, where I see this often, is in menu systems. So you might have a thing, like a pop-up saying, please enter an option. You might have like option 1, 2, 3, and maybe option 4 is to exit. Well, no matter what, you need it to pop up at least once, right? So you can use this one and check at the end. See, the thing about this kind of loop you should be aware of is that sometimes this one won't actually run. So because this one checks at the beginning, like what if you put 100 here, right? And 100 here. So it will run this one exactly one time, but not this one. Take a look. So you got the dashes and 100 came down here, but that's it. The first one, since I is set to 100, it's asking right away, is I less than 10? No, it isn't, so we're going to skip right past it. Okay, it prints out the dashes. The one down here, though, because the I is set to 100, it doesn't do a check until the end, so it actually goes into the loop, prints out the 100, it adds 1 to it, becomes 101, and then it does the check, and it says, hey, is the I less than 10? Nope, so it stops the loop. So no matter what, with the do while loop, it always runs at least one time, no matter what. Which is why sometimes it's good for menus, because the menu will come up no matter what at least once, and that's where I see it often. But in all honesty, most of the time you see it is this style right here, and a for loop. That's the other very common type of loop that you see in Java. So anyways, you can, like I said, you can change things up. You can start with different numbers. Instead of having it go up by 1, you can make it go up by 2 if you want. There's a lot of flexibility you have. So you could do something like this. And instead of I++, you can write I equals I plus 2. And let's see what that does. It goes up by 2s instead, right? I started with an odd number, that's why it's going up by 2s. So a lot of things you can do in this. It's pretty cool. And I'm hoping it's a fairly easy concept for you to understand. This is the while loop in Java. And down here, this is the do while loop in Java. Very, very similar. It's the only difference is the while loop is at the end.